Yes.
Okay, next up is the approval of the minutes for council work session of June 3rd. Discussion on those minutes. Very nice. Any discussion? No?
I'm fine with it.
Alright, action on those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the work session minutes of June 3rd.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. DePalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Abstain.
There is actually one correction that I missed, and so did you, Dwayne. That those minutes are listing you as absent.
But it does say, let the
It says
record reflect that
that
Mr. Dalton arrived at 7:05.
Where's it say that?
Right here.
Okay, there you go.
it gave me credit for being here a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
I didn't get here until 7:35, but I'll take it.
It's in there. Let me scratch there. Okay. Next we have matters to be presented by the public. This is resolutions only. Please state your name and address for the record. If any member of the public has a matter to be addressed, physically would like to discuss or answer any questions of the record. If anyone would like to discuss or ask any questions or resolutions, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to open this up. Resolutions only to the public. And that's, I'm going to start on this side, my right, your left. Second row, questions on resolutions. Third row, fourth row, back row. Bring it over to my left, your right. First row, second row. Just come on up here and talk for a minute.
Good evening, my Haida Council people. My name is Louis Lopez. I live at 370 South Morton. Our resolution is when you're going to discuss more of the solar panel. I would like to see that more discussion in more friendly environment.
Which resolution?
The solar panel. I like to,
That's,
in the old business.
that's not this time, Louis.
Okay.
Alright,
And
this is
Revolution
resolution
6. How was these people appointed?
Resolution 2013-99.
Yes.
What's your question?
How the people got.
How are they being appointed?
Yeah.
They submitted resumes to me, expressed an interest, and after discussing with the Recreation Committee, I appointed them.
Okay. I got some other questions in the next forward session. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Next row. Any questions?
Thank you.
Questions on resolution? Okay, back row. Oh, that's big row. One more row, then the back row. Any questions on the resolutions? Okay, over on the left, any questions on the resolutions? No. Okay. Alright, seeing no other questions from the public on the resolutions, I'm closing the section of matters to be presented by the public regarding resolutions. And now I'll bring it back up here. Do we have discussion on the resolutions from this council?
I have none, Mayor.
Jason?
No.
Lou? Any discussion on these resolutions?
Not at this time.
Rich?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. Action on the resolutions. I'd like to do this as a consent agenda. resolutions 2013-94, 2013-95, 2013-96, 2013-97, 2013-98, 2013-99, 2013-100, 2013-101, and we added 2013-102.
Mayor, I would ask, I'm okay with the consent agenda. I would like 1399 separate, please. Number 6.
Right, the consent agenda as I listed, with the exception of 2013-99, which we will handle separately. Do I have action on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve resolutions 2013-94 through 2013-102, excluding 2013-99.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowden?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Per Mr. Belton, we excluded from the consent agenda resolution 2013-99. Resolution appointing the Recreation Committee members. This resolution appoints Stephanie Allen, Diana Cruz, Sue Jeffers as members to the Recreation Committee. Discussion on this resolution.
I have no discussion.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else does.
Any discussion? All right, this resolution was questioned by Luis Lopez, so it's appointments made by the manager, and these appointments were at the recommendation of the
Myself, and then I spoke to the
Recreation
Recreation
members.
Committee, and they were agreeing to it.
Okay.
All three of these people have expressed interest, and two of them have helped us in other functions in the past.
Okay, then. Action on this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2013-99.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bowden?
Abstain.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Alright, we are now at, I should have left that, we should put that in there too. Alright, we have, an approval of a taxi cab owner's license application, Teltrans LLC, it's a renewal. And, we have another approval of taxi cab, operations license application, Michael Williams, a renewal. Steve, you went through the numbers.
Yeah, they completed the background by the police department, found it satisfactory.
Alright, you guys wanna do these together, is it, can we put these, we can put these together, right? Let's do these together as well, unless there's, anyone have any issues with it, discussion? No? Okay, no discussion, no issues. Alright, the approval of the, taxi cab owner license applications. Do I have action by the council?
I'll make a motion to approve the two taxi cab operation license applications.
A second?
Second.
Mr. Bowden?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to approval of the bill list.
No, I just make one correction on the bill list on the manual one, which is the one, this one here looks like a Excel sheet. Page 4, you see on the recreation trust, I think the total was like 97,000.
Yeah.
I don't know what the problem was with Excel, but it's actually $2,345. So I just want to make that amendment correction total.
I'll have to see what that is.
Yeah.
Okay,
pulled my calculator out twice.
Discussion on the bill list.
Um, You know,
Is that a yes?
yeah, well, I'm just not sure, Steve, maybe after a couple of years of looking at these, I guess I never questioned it before. Maybe it's just because I never thought about running total. But as we go through these budgets and I'm looking at numbers that look different than what we're paying when we get into the bills, when it says on the bill list where it says status check, and it says R, and then most of them are R's. What does that R mean under status check? Does that mean it's like,
I actually think that means recorded.
so that just means recorded?
Yeah, I think that's one of their accounting for, when they put it in, as they're going through their ledger, I think the RP recorded that it was completed to move on to the next section.
Okay. And then if we, like, how do we know this particular case, we're paying, in this bill, we're paying the auditor $25,000? I'm not, I don't remember off the top of my head what the contract amount was.
31.
31. So, is the audit complete?
He's, yeah, pretty much, for 99%, we've been here, he's almost been like a full-time employee here, going through as much as we've gone through, and he's been writing it up, and he's, at this point, it's just a matter of proofreading, and, there's still a couple things he was waiting. We had to go back at one point, in 1980 for something, so he was writing it around that, working a little bit, and then we were able just to think.
Okay.
I think when he's almost done with his audit, having worked with Brent before, I ended up getting a letter from him. I did get that letter, so I think that means it's close to being complete.
Okay. Because I guess, it doesn't make sense to change these things, but, if we're paying, the auditor 25,000, his contract is 31, we're 6,000 short of paying the total, and outside of asking this question to you, if we pay it, say, $8,000 the next time, and that's $2,000 over the contract amount.
Well,
if we don't get a year-to-date total,
if I try to pay that, Harry will storm downstairs and scream at me about it, that it's over the amount. And we constantly counter check those numbers, and we usually don't, there are very limited circumstances, but we don't pay for the service until it's completed or, on the way there.
okay.
Doing it, because there's a section on when we send the purchase order voucher out that I sign off on, and then there's a section that I sign and send upstairs that's completed. Prime example, there's one on here we're going to, hopefully approve for payment. I just got some additional information, I'm gonna hold their check tomorrow until I get the rest of the right parts. It was initially found out, and then it was discovered after the fact that it was the wrong.
Okay. That was my question, my one major question was that large sum for the audit, which I thought was close to the total contract amount, and whether the audit was completed. I still have questions with the solicitor services that I've had questions since the beginning of the year. Did we get?
George and I talked, I guess whatever day, the next day you and I had spoke, and in all fairness to George, this week he was tied up with those other litigation talks during that, so I'm sure when we talk tomorrow, he'll get it over to me to do that other issue.
I submitted a contract in January along with those others. I'm not sure what happened, but I prepared my contract as well as, I believe, every professional, all the engineers, and as well as the auditor and municipal prosecutor, municipal public defender. And whenever
And, you know, I'm still, I'm still having, I'd like to see the contract, I guess, so I'd like this
Like I
separated
said, when you
from.
first asked, we checked our file, what made it out and signed, and it never made its way there. And as we're discovering even more this week with a change of personnel, finding bills from March and April that we never submitted for things. So, I'm not sitting here making excuses, it's just the fact of,
No, 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 I'm okay with that, like I said, I'd like to see it, but I'd also, I know I had asked, and, maybe it's beyond the scope, but, maybe that contract would clear some of that up, is in the breakdown that we get, we get the solicitor services for the month, and then we get, you know, services for, I guess, what you want to call special projects or whatever. And I don't know the difference between the two, and that's where, we get a breakdown of hours that's spent on the special projects, but we don't get a breakdown on the flat fee that we have that's close to $3,000 a month. Do you receive that breakdown, or?
what you receive is what I get. I would say with a lot of special projects, it's things such like the impact fees, things of that nature. It requires a certain amount of research
Oh, yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
It says.
You know, I know George and I usually meet once a week on some pending issues. We talk a couple times on the phone because I'm constantly getting calls from attorneys and vice versa. Things of that nature. I mean, I would sum up special projects, anything like that, that what we would ask them to do outside the normal day-to-day scope of, the township work.
So,
George, is that
That's correct.
accurate?
Special projects is just a billing program label because it didn't make sense to add something new every time that there was just one of those, like with the solar ordinance, the impact fees. There's one particular personnel issue we have to meet on that we've been trying to resolve, which is potential litigation. That's frequently been in that. Those are the type of issues. I mean, you note that the UEZ issues were broken out separately. That was requested of me, so that was easy. But you'll notice on that, there's all different types of UEZ issues that have come up, but that was just one particular breakdown.
I guess my concern is I have no clue what the other $3,000 goes towards. If I see in the special projects a conversation with, Charlotte Clauder, who was our clerk, and it's just a conversation, shouldn't that be under the normal course of doing business, or is that a special project for
I'm sure it related
an
to
ordinance publication? I mean, so that's not covered under the
The
normal
problem with
scope
that
of
one,
business.
with the ordinance publication,
I don't think that's something we should talk about in
Okay.
public session, but I think you're familiar with that issue.
This was something pending left over that required,
Okay.
again, research.
Yeah, I guess if I could see what is the normal course of business versus what we're getting
I can provide you a
special.
printout because the majority of that is actually recorded. You'll see it's an average of about
I guess that's what
25 hours a month.
I guess that's what I wouldn't mind.
We'll look
That's
again
certainly
upstairs,
meeting here.
So,
and
so like a
regardless,
little guide, with a guideline then set, is that what
Well,
you're
no, I
looking
mean,
at?
if he spends 25 hours a month and he breaks it down like he does here.
It varies. Sometimes it's more, but I think the lowest it's been is about 20, 21.
Okay.
I mean, I did approve attendance at all the meetings. We did meetings I had with the chief just to review all issues.
Well,
I'm asked to prepare a simple resolution, a simple ordinance.
and if we
Comments
can't
opposed to
locate the
complex.
original one, we still have to get it signed, so we'll print another one up, I'll get it to you.
I get it. I guess, since the
Well,
beginning
it
of the
still
year,
has to
I
be
asked.
here.
Yeah, I asked since the beginning of the year if we could do the same thing with that lump sum that we're paying that we're doing with everything else. I didn't think that was, difficult. I mean, you keep track of it already if we can continue, And, since you mentioned the solar ordinance, when we do special projects or whatever, and the solar ordinance in particular, I mean, I don't know if anyone else picked that up on this bill, the solar ordinance, or did you look at his bill? Okay. Anybody like to comment on that, or am I the only one that's going to
you're running with it, Dwayne, go ahead and take it.
Well, I don't
take it
wanna
to the-
feel like I'm the only one,
No,
you know,
this is-
beating it up.
Go ahead.
But, you know, we paid $2,300.66 for the solar ordinance that we sent completely back to the drawing board. So how do we pay for things if we're not satisfied? Like, do we approve them?
Well, we're paying for a certain amount of the work that was completed, and then you send it back to the drawing board, well, you know, it has to be reworked.
So some of that, Dwayne, is gonna fall on us, and that's where I've been a stickler. We're trying to get a process together where we we either bring in an ordinance from another town, like we did with the vacant house ordinance, and then George just basically flips a name on it and does some wording, or we do some research. We request ordinances, and then we do the work session and we give him the guidance to flesh it out. So. But I'm not gonna, you know.
So, I mean, Caitlin was here on that, she put a lot of time, I think there are two issues that need to be addressed on it, and she's aware of that, but I thought that was, in the end.
George, if, let me know if I'm wrong or not, or if I'm right. Isn't the work that's pertaining to ordinances, resolutions, fall in the general category of the contract of doing work for the township at the cap that you're set in there?
So,
So, moot point, I understand what you're saying.
What do you mean moot point? We're paying the bill every month.
Well, I guess
It's
what
not
he's,
under the cap.
you-
His cap is the monthly lump sum. And then when he reaches that cap, everything else is billed separately. It's
no,
not
you
under
don't,
the cap.
it's gone, quite frankly, it's gone over the cap almost every month, it's a pretty hourly rate, that's part of the general services, quite frankly. It's, you know, it's attendance and meetings here, attendance and meetings with Steve, and it's a lot of general day-to-day operations and review. It's the,
That's
Oh,
what
like,
I think they're
a lot of-
missing, and that's why I'm bringing it up, and that's why I brought it up at
Oh, yeah.
the first bill that we
happy
received.
to run the contract straight down.
well, I think, maybe I'm misunderstanding, Dwayne, you know, because we did this with Parker McKay as well, and the answer was always, you know, these things fall under the, you know, they go towards the cap, is I guess the wording that I'm looking for. And I think what Rich was just saying, so the yearly cutoff, so when we hit whatever the yearly cutoff is, then, you know, as our past solicitor used to say, well, then we're you know, basically, that's it, you know.
No, I mean, look, if we end up having a meeting every week, I mean, that's still included, you don't get billed for that. At township meetings like this, that's what's included. You know, Steve sends me, you know, 10 resolutions that are basic to prepare, I'm gonna prepare them, you're not gonna get billed for that. You get a complicated one it requires a lot of research, that's different. I mean, I'm happy to do it as a straight hourly, I mean, I thought it's always been a money saver in any municipality I've represented in the past. That's why I do it as, you know.
Well, then I think Rich is a little confused, because,
Yeah.
and we're all confused.
You know, so, just because I'm confused doesn't mean we're all confused, I would hope, but,
Well,
let me just get some clarification here, all right? You have and I did have the contract, so, you know, my memory is kind of full, so I'm not exactly sure what that max amount to your contract is, but what is that max amount to your contract?
Well, there's no max amount
For
to
the
it.
year, for the
although-
year.
Well, there is a not to exceed, which
Not
is-
to exceed.
There's clearly, I don't remember typically, I would think it would be 100,000, would be a not to exceed.
Because
If
the
it-
last solicitor used to, he used to say, his return on it was always, every year we exceed, you know, we hit the not to exceed limit, and then basically from that point forward, it's not billed. So we hit that point, we're not billed, you still
Well,
gotta do
that's
your
with the
job.
exception of all
Right?
the.
Except for the special.
All the special
Right,
stuff.
right. So
No,
you.
that's my overall, is not to exceed, so if you wanted me to do more work or something, you'd have to approve it, and then we talk about it. Quite
Okay.
frankly, I think we're probably right around there on average, I don't know.
Well, it's a yearly
Yeah.
thing, so how would we be there right around
No,
there?
no, the not to
on
exceed
average?
is like you have it in your engineer's contracts and not to exceed, that doesn't mean you don't give them extra projects, and each time you pass a work order or something like that. I think what you're referring to is, I have a flat rate included, which is a small amount of retainer, that's included, which includes attendance at every meeting, you know, all the times I meet with Steve, you know, anything like that. On the other hand, when I go to meetings and have discussions with, you know, in my capacity with litigation for the township, that's a whole separate category, that's billed, you know, separately. If we had no litigation, I just attended meetings all year, you're just gonna get the flat rate. And that's it. If you know, if we didn't have, you know, all the other things that are included in there that you said. I mean, I'll look at the language in my contract. I'm happy to present it to you in executive session, but
The language is,
I think it needs to be
and not to
presented.
exceed is separate, there's a, you know, is, there's
think
two
it-
different
I was
parts.
big
You're
on that
mixing
not
apples
to
and oranges.
exceed language, you know, and this contract being par to the previous contract, which was that under normal business, they hit a point, let's say it was 100,000 for the year, and after that, they continued to provide the normal services. But that was, the bill was, you know, wasn't there because they hit
I'm not sure.
that.
There was always a bill. It was just, I think, categorized differently.
Under special project.
The building department.
Well,
Well, might not
I think
ever
it
hit
could
it.
start with one, would be a copy of the contract, and then I think we need to review it.
And I thought we were
And-
going to have a copy of the contract.
Steve mentioned it to me, I honestly didn't get a chance to look for it. I know I said it in January.
So we definitely need a copy of the contract to move forward, Dwayne. Is that what you want?
If I'm the only one that, you know, there's five of us up here, if I'm the only one that disagrees with this bill, you know, I'm not gonna hold up his payment. If you guys don't have a disagreement with this bill, then that's what, you
Well,
know.
that's where the vote comes in, Dwayne, but, you know,
Yeah.
as far as the councilman, you're requesting a contract
I get that.
you know, and that's where it's gotta be, you know, left off.
Yeah, well, I thought you were asking me if we were holding off for that.
Well, no, you don't have, you can
Well,
vote
I'm just
no,
making
but you
sure.
don't have,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Alright, so, did you say you wanted to exclude the bill so that they're
Yes.
voted on separately, so then you
Correct.
could do your, you can put it, any vote you want, right?
Correct.
Okay, any further discussion on the bills?
No.
I did have one more,
Okay.
and it was about the email. Is this, the email separate, I guess, than the contract that we have with the new?
Yeah, basically when we changed over the email, you know, the spam and everything like that, you getting there's a problem with the exchange server. Our .info address was going to expire, at which point it was gonna cost us a ton more money to keep it. So we changed that over. That money came out of outside police payroll. When an officer works a side job, the township gets a portion of that as administrative fee, so it's really no cost to the taxpayer to switch over.
Okay. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if that was part of this new contract that we just
No,
entered
this was,
into.
well, like I said, once they got in here and started looking at stuff, it's just, you know.
They're more or less a service company that's outside hosting services, what they get done.
So it wasn't part of the contract and it was
No.
covered under the outside payroll, right?
It was something
Okay.
separate that after the fact, when we got in here and started digging around, we realized we had to do.
Yeah, to fix it. And is that gonna be I saw there was a hosting for 24 months. Is the 2,800, is that a one-time payment, and then it won't be 2,800 bucks a month?
No, we just paid it out.
Okay. All right, so then we won't see anything, we shouldn't see anything more for
Hopefully,
email
unless
for
something
24
breaks.
months.
Right.
Yeah, it should be good. And actually, regarding the email hosting, we just run did a huge calculation, gave us a comparison of a bunch of different vendors, and they were the cheapest.
Can you talk closer to your microphone?
The mics aren't working.
Okay.
I'll speak up.
Yeah, we
Please
can
do.
hear
Thank you.
So, you're saying that the contractor did some legwork for us then, for the,
Absolutely.
They have some, I don't know, contacts, and they were able to, like, when we called Dell and ordered something, they have some other company, when we ordered it, they got it a little bit cheaper than what we did ordering it, so.
But then it wasn't bid out because it doesn't, it
Right,
falls under the
fell under
threshold,
it,
right?
That's all I had.
Anyone else have any questions on the bill list? Seeing no other questions, action on the bill list?
Make a motion to approve the bill list.
I have a first, I have a second. You have a second.
I would like to separate the,
I'm sorry. You want to separate that?
Yeah, he wants to separate that. The motion was already made.
How do you handle that, George?
You can just put no on one particular bill and itemize it. Yeah, I know that Mr. Paco always.
He
no,
abstains
she's
from a
abstaining.
piece,
You can
right?
do the same
Okay,
thing
so
on any particular.
you can separate that out when we do the roll call then. Second?
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Mr. Belton.
No.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco.
Yes.
Mr. Dow.
No.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we, in order of preparing this, we use an old an old agenda.
Steve, I'm having a hard time hearing.
When Vicky prepared this, she used an old agenda from when she previously did it, and we need to add section 12 for another matters to be presented by public section.
That'll be,
And of course, we've each looked at this 15 times and realized that it's after 10 minutes.
so that falls in between the new business and the matters to be presented by manager.
Because we started
We have to
right
do
now.
all the bills after the bills.
Next.
That's next.
We'll have the updated one I have on the board, I'll send.
Alright, so now is the second portion of the matters to be presented by the public. This one, is any question you want? You're gonna go back here a little bit, let's see if the first one said what I needed to say. Yeah, let's do this one here. Please state your name and address for the record. If any member of the public has a matter to be presented that pertains to housing and or police matters, please see Chief Martin. If anyone would like to discuss or ask any questions of the resolutions, we already did that, so scratch that. Anyone that wants to ask a question, starting on my right, your left, second row. Questions? Next row? Third row? Fourth row?
What happened to the microphones?
Kind of row there, you gotta speak your name.
Oh, okay. Holly Doyle, 33 White Street. On Saturday, the Millrace Village will be having an event called Pillage the Village. It's the second annual time we're having this event, and it's from noon until 6 o'clock. So we're encouraging people to come in costumes. We're expecting pirates, gypsies, the medieval period. It's kind of like pirates attacking at a Renaissance fair. And there's several different groups that are participating with us that are reenactors, and there'll be demonstrations. It's a really great event for kids, and most everything is free. So I would like to invite council to come and join us for the day. You're welcome to wear a costume, but it's not required. Thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Holly, thank you.
Can you please provide me with a electronic version flyer
Put it on
and
the
any other
website.
information on the website?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. All right, anyone else in that row? All right, coming over here, my left to your right, first row. No questions. Second row.
Yes, water runoff.
Okay.
Water runoff.
I got pictures.
That's what I said.
Randy Rothmel, 33 Union Street. Couple things that are kind of related to each other. First of all, I see that you're gonna, under new business, you have the Burlington County Parks Grid. I assume that's gonna be applying for the county grant. I assume just a resubmittal of projects, I guess that you're already been considering for the parks, I assume. I'm not really sure exactly what you're submitting, but under that, I'm assuming that that's money that's being from the county under their open space money that they have. And I just wanted to mention on that, this coming Wednesday, I heard through the grapevine at the county level is going to be a public hearing on potential of reducing that tax levy down from its current 4 cents. So if anyone wants to go to the county meeting at 7 o'clock to voice their opinions on this, because since there isn't any dedicated fund right now on the state level for open space, I think it's really, to me, it's really important to keep the Burlington County level. It's a model program that's been in effect for a long time to preserve farmland, open space, allow for grants for communities to do parks and recreation and that sort of thing. So please, it's going to be an important meeting, 7 o'clock, and I didn't know about it until this past weekend. So with that, the other opportunity that you actually, as a council, have, if you're interested in, there is a effort of various municipalities, counties to actually put together a resolution in support of having a sustainable state funding for preservation and stewardship of open space, farm, and historic sites. And if you're interested, I have information on that. A number of 43, as of beginning of May, 43 municipalities have signed a resolution on this. 12 counties, various boards in need. So if you're interested in considering putting together your own resolution to try to get a stable, sustainable funding on the state level, so, for the Green Acres program, basically, just let me know. I can pass that information on to you. Put together a resolution that's for the council. With that, let's go on to our own issue with open space and parks. The Mount. As you know, back in March, when we actually put in the mulch, I think I came up here saying that there was probably going to be an issue with the way it was put in. There was a consideration of erosion control on the mount when they put on the mount, and then a heavy rainstorm, we're going to have a washout. Well, I say 1,000 pictures says 1,000 words. I have 6 pictures here, so I guess I have 6,000
I
words.
took pictures if you want.
Oh, well, okay. Here's some pictures of from Friday storm, Monday storm, the washout of the mulch onto High Street, and on the back you can see where the rain actually made a culvert of down the mount. So our $100,000. I have a couple of pictures, a couple of them I can kind of pass them around, kind of wash down. So I don't know what we can do, if there's any repercussions, be able to go back to the contractor, go back to the grant, to see what, because now you've spent us a lot of money.
I'm gonna check with Bill Long tomorrow. I had somebody go take pictures and try to clean up High Street and Prospect a little bit. And then I'm gonna check with Lima, see if there's any kind of performance bond or anything like that on it.
Who designed it?
Lima and her people. And when we had this discussion about water bars, I ignored expert moment.
And if you notice, actually, it's interesting, the picture that actually I took, there's one picture that shows the, where the steps actually were going up to the altar.
Hold on 1 second, please. Chief, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, we had the discussion about water bars.
Going back to Lima, we discussed it, he said it had been brought up and that's, the natural course of that.
The natural course of the road.
Yeah.
But I guess what I mentioned, it was interesting, but the one picture I did show on there of where the steps were, which really weren't as put in as water bars, but you can see even having the steps in there prevented the erosion of the mulch going down the hill, even though they weren't really designed as water bars. So having something going across to divert the water, since, I mean, water runs downhill. It's gravity, so it's just, not surprising, but just wanted to bring it up and hopefully it can be resolved. Thank you.
Was my mistake made on that? I thought they were still holding back.
We have someone to build us.
Yeah, I think we just approved it,
Yeah,
right?
that was,
But
I mean, the contractor did, yeah, but the contractor did what he was hired to do.
Right,
But he only works
this
on
comes down to
plans.
design,
Right, it's an engineering issue.
so maybe we ought to check his insurance policy.
Okay, anyone else in that row?
And then Zeus Lopez with 370 Sophomore. Over here, that's a bad how you know, Garden Ransom. would like to know your, too, I would like to know your our opinions about the letters. And like I said, I love living in my house 17 years. And I love living in the same place. Like, stay there for, forever, until I get old. And I love it, close space to everywhere. To the bypass, to the school, to the police station, to the school. And second question, it was bothering me. The second person was, bothering me about the contract solicitor. When that gonna be resolved? It's almost halfway to the year.
When is the contract issue with the solicitor?
Yeah, and what I'd like to see, in paper. It's been.
That's what we just discussed tonight, so, the answer is, we will have the contract by the next meeting in hand, and, right? And we'll be able to review it, but there is, it was a matter of record when we, gave out these appointments, so there was definitely a contract, and the contract was definitely reviewed. It was a competitive, situation there. So, right now what we have is what Steve was saying, we have a little bit of turmoil upstairs with the switching around of the personnel, and if they did due diligence to try to find the original, now we're gonna have to, acquire a copy, it looks like at this point, which, the solicitor provide, and, we'll get to take a look at it.
What will happen if that contract is being passed exceeds the limit?
Well, we need to take a look at that,
Oh,
obviously, there's some
I think the
wording
last
there.
thing I heard was $65,000, or it could be more.
What's the question?
I meant for the contract, for the total contract for the 2000, for the first January all the way to.
To the end of the year.
I think it was $65,000.
Not to exceed, well, that's the numbers we need to take a look at.
Numbers are. Well, I would say the.
I don't know what number I inserted in that. I based it. I don't remember if I called Steve and based it. I know it was less than the number that was utilized for solicitor services in the past year. I know that for a fact, and I'm sure it was some round number, but honestly, I don't remember it. It's not something.
My second question is, on the past Township meeting, you talking about that solar ordinance. You could look at from different towns. I did look at the different towns. What's the progress of the solar ordinance? You should be looking at different towns.
We're gonna discuss that
We're,
next.
we're gonna discuss that under
Oh, okay.
old business, which is next, all right? So, we'll be talking about that next.
And like I said, if anybody who want to record videos, now I could record full-length video non-stop up to 2 hours. And second is, what are you gonna do with empty properties Mount Holly have? It's been they have several years. One, I think block or two away from the MEA. That's about next to the Benton County field hoses. There's empty parking lots. Next to the empty parking, it's a field with lot numbers. Is that be for sales or is that gonna be staying there?
Well, what we discussed at the budget meeting was taking a look at miscellaneous properties. In other words, little small odd lots here and there, see if there's any interest. There was one particular parcel that there was interest once upon a time. We'll take a look at the inventory of the properties that the township has and see what are viable as far as selling off. Larger pieces may be already involved in an overall redevelopment process. That, Rich, you have anything you want to say on the redevelopment process as far as larger parcels go? We'd want to hold back and take a better, take a more intense look. We wouldn't just be selling them off to raise revenue without a plan.
There would be a total plan
developer.
and a redevelopment plan that would be addressed prior to moving forward with those larger parcels of property.
So like King Street, Rancocas, that piece where we just tore down the warehouse after the roof collapsed, that wasn't the intent when I brought up the selling off of property at the budget meeting, if that's what you're referring to. It was more these little lots like the one on Buttonwood, or the one off of Grant. There are smaller lots, quite often they're undevelopable, but there's a couple of bucks that could be made. It all adds up, and that could possibly reduce it, a tax burden. Obviously every dollar coming in reduces the tax burden. So that's all I got on that. What else you got?
What's the progress of the plywood work on Mahali? Any what you gonna do with that property?
Give, give me a little clarification. What?
I mean, I'm seeing a lot gonna be using any kind of office storage. The plywood works next to the MBA.
The Public Works building next to the MUA.
Public Works is using it.
Oh, plywood work. Oh, okay. Also, I like uh. And I would like to say, I would like everybody to attend to freeholding meeting. Make sure, please come early. The reason I ask that is, for the last 3 meetings of the Mount Hardy Bounty County 13 freeholders, it's jam packed. If you want to guarantee a seat, just come early. 6 o'clock, 6:30. Like I said, it's going to get jam packed for the next several freeholder meetings. The reason is, it's about all the teachers' contracts. It's been 300, I think 365 days we are contract. If you want to guarantee a seat, just come early. And if anyone I have a video come in, like I said, I'm proud to live in my Hardy, and I'm proud to live with this resident I have, with Nancy, everyone being a friends, loved one being lost. I just want to have live peace and harmony. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Anyone else in that row? Next row back. Row 3. Need one. Okay. Back row. Row 4. Any questions? Oh, I want to give you
Yeah.
James Potter, 126 Levis Drive. Yeah. Along the alleyway that runs from Levis Drive clear back to North Martin, I've noticed that there's been an overgrowth of brush there. Who's supposed to be cutting that, and
We'll take a look at it and see if it's our property, we'll cut it. If not,
talking about brush that's overhanging that fence that runs along that alley?
yeah, from the auto body shop.
The auto body shop, or is it the storage spots?
I'm not sure.
probably both.
But it would be a box spot.
Yeah, we'll send them a notice to cut it, and then we'll cut it back.
Okay. Another thing is, in the vacant house adjacent to my house, there are feral cats running in and out.
Yeah, but Steve, we have the TNR program, I guess, maybe give them the heads up then?
Yep, I'll give Wanda.
We have a trap neuter release program, they'll get, a call on that.
It's good information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We did, but they still do.
They still do it.
Oh, yeah, there's certain things that they still do with the things that they've had.
Cool. Thank you, whatever you, I didn't know we were gonna We were just discussing that the trap neuter release program apparently did not get the grant, but that they were putting in for, but the program does still exist to some extent, unlimited funding. All right, the next row, the back row, anyone? Oh, no, all right, come on now.
Thank you.
All right.
I put in an application for a permit for my
Your
chickens.
name and your.
Marie Bonner, I'm sorry, 311 Tree Street.
Okay.
I put in an application for permit for chickens, for fowl, and I wanted to find out if that's approved or not. They said that I have to come here and find out, so.
I'll address that issue. Did you speak to Mr. Garside today?
Who's that?
He's our code enforcement officer.
I spoke with the health department.
Okay.
They came out, they approved it on the application.
Okay, and the problem being here, the former clerk never advised anybody, council, myself, that we were supposed to have a hearing tonight. So I had Mr. Garside try to get a hold of you today, because we found out at, about noon time today, it was never passed along to us, so we'll have to set that up for the 24th.
Okay,
All right?
so come back then?
Yep, we'll send you notice and everything like that for the foul license.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right.
I'll speak up from here rather than
No,
coming all the way up front.
No, you're not. You're gonna come on.
We've got microphones anyway.
The microphones are not working. He wants to see your pretty face.
Ken Pipes, 35 Mount Laurel Road, Hainesport. I'm not a Mount Holly resident, but I do own property here, and I do pay taxes on that lot, so we'll get that one out of the way. I don't have anything to complain about. I just want to commend you. Vicki Conover has been a great employee for a number of years. I can tell you when I come here, she treats people with respect, and you made a good choice in making her deputy municipal clerk. So I just wanted to commend you that you rewarded and promoted somebody who's worthy of the job.
Thank you for that
Is that what you did with the extra money?
Anyone else? Thank you for that
You
comment.
said that into the microphone, just saying.
Anyone else in that row? Okay, over to the left, against the wall, any questions? None?
Carolyn Young Green, 197 Cardinal Lane. Chief Martin has really been my advocate so that I can breathe on my patio, but lately it's back. The compactor at Acme, when it was 90 degrees and the wind blows, I can't even enjoy my own yard. I spoke to Tim, the manager, and he said he was gonna contact someone. They put some kind of pellets in the compactor to absorb, but when it's compacting.
Right, it squirts,
Yeah.
oozes. I'll take care of it tomorrow again.
And then my other question, and thank you for that, I mean, really, it smells like a pig pen, and I really can't breathe, and I enjoy my yard. I enjoy being out.
It's all the
You don't
meat
smell it?
products and leftover.
Disgusting.
Well, the first time she called me, I looked at it, it looked like some kind of hazardous waste, and all standing around looking at it.
Yeah, that is correct. And then my other question, I don't know, but with the rain and the downpours, we seem to be getting flooded more often. And I'm not sure if it's the drainage problem, like today, all of the recycling bins were floating down Holly Lane.
Well, I think what it is looking at it, I think it's a problem on High Street, 541, with the county, because if you look, that system backs up right there. Because ours was fine till it was backing up. We had our Public Works, West Hampton, and the county out there. And I think that's where the problem is, because it drains down to a certain point. Then in West Hampton, it stops and it starts backing up. And I did see one councilman pulling a recycling bucket that floated away. Thought they were wet. They was picking those big one-arm bandit buckets up and dumping them over and floating them down the street. I mean, it backed all the way up to Robin.
Well, it was pretty intense. This flooding was more rain. I just read somewhere that, it's record rain, so, we definitely had
Well, I
flooding.
knew it was an issue out there because you could still see a portion of the catch basin. So it was clogged up, just going down slow, because the catch basin was completely full. So that's where when we got out of the car. So it's, the county came out and we made some additional calls between West
I
Hampton.
mean, we have to talk about it because, I mean, it is ongoing, but the last couple of years, the water is up above the sidewalk. The kids were swimming in it, and if we're gonna continue to be, involved with more downpours, the wind, et cetera, the weather is changing. So we do have to do something about the drainage, because eventually it's gonna come into our homes. So, we have to talk about it.
Well, I think that you basically just started that conversation, so, and I'm sure you'll stay on top of it.
I will.
And, we will,
have to address it when we look at our overall infrastructure plan, which, gets reviewed periodically, that would be tied in with road improvements. When we talk with, whatever connects to the county, like Steve was just mentioning, there's a county issue. Sometimes it's a matter of adding, as simple as adding a plan. But, by bringing it forward, make it a matter of record, and then, you basically start building the case.
I'll see what they found out, like I said, they, sent the workers out to get it, moving along, and I'll see what I'll talk to the county engineer to see what the issue is there.
And you're gonna, would you,
Yep, I'll report back to everybody, and also I'll stop at Acme again tomorrow.
And I do wanna thank you for having the grass cut at the property of the corner of Cardinal and Holly. My neighbors were at my driveway thanking me, really, and I said, I would thank you on their behalf. Okay, thank you.
thank you, Karen. All right. Any other questions from the back row? Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public section. All right. So now we have, old business, the solar ordinance discussion, the ongoing year after year solar ordinance discussion. Is on here as old business to try to move things along. Rich and I had asked for some ordinances, and I have not been able to get onto the website for a little while now, so I'm not sure if there were ordinances provided.
I've got several ordinances that we did quote since last week. Certainly get them to you. I think hopefully my associate, as I visited them, she advised, pulled certain aspects from at least a couple of those, but I know we have Cameroons and a couple others. I'll certainly provide it to you.
Well,
they're all different, and some of them had various problems that we thought they had issues on many of the old ones.
and so we're still waiting for the ordinances then. They weren't on the web then, right? So there will be, there's no discussion, really any further discussion on it, or?
Yeah.
Right. Because the intent, George, one of the reasons why we put it in there and name only, and then we pushed forward was, the planning board, has to do their own thing with it, and, just trying to move it along was the intent there. So by next meeting, we should have something.
I'll rework the draft as to some of the comments. I briefly had a
Well,
chance to
okay,
discuss
well,
with the manager.
I'm glad you brought that up, because, just hold on for 1 second, because we did just kick this around a little earlier. So, does council want George to rework the draft, or does council, because that costs us money, we already just talked about that. Or does council want to look at the ordinances and give suggestions, like, hey, just take this ordinance and change on.
What if finding the ordinances, correct?
There's a lot of stuff to it, and
He's getting ordinances from surrounding towns and giving them to us.
So we're paying to find the ordinances.
It's true, yeah, no, we're gonna pay
And
him.
we're gonna go and pick them through, go through them, and then give them back to him, and then he'll finally write the last ordinance that we all agree on.
Well, that's the way I'd like to go with it, but.
Now, with that being said, how are we gonna agree upon it before he gets the final draft? Because I have my issues, the 5 of us can't meet unless it's in a public forum. So, I give him my issue, you give him your issue, and then he has to draft one of them, so we're gonna pay him to do it again.
Well, that's what I'm saying, how do we avoid paying them to do it again? We were discussing
You're not
again
going to
under old
avoid paying,
business.
you're not gonna avoid paying him to do it again because.
May I interject?
Part of the problem is,
Just-
I interject one other thing to this.
Just like the abandoned property ordinance, you told where it was, you found it, we called, got a copy, we passed that, passed all your comments back, when we had all the comments, everything gathered, we gave it to George put his legalese on it and did it once. I mean,
This is gonna be a lot more complicated, a lot different, and I say one of the main things is, tell me, I'm sure some of you, I don't know if you looked up, Aaron or anybody else looked up a particular ordinance in another town, but I can tell you that they're all gonna be different, and there's gonna be intricacies to it, because Pemberton Township is nothing like Mount Holly. You know, rural farmland versus downtown or the historic district, you're dealing with different issues no matter what you do, so you can't cookie cut, you can't do it that way. It's just, but.
I thought after the workshop, and I mean, your associate was here that night, that, we left it pretty clear what we were looking for. We were looking for a residential friendly ordinance, and we were also looking for a revenue generator in those spots where it was possible. I thought we were pretty clear, we had beat that up. So, I mean, and we've already spent, I don't know what research was done in the amount of hours that we were billed for, but there were obviously a lot of research put into it that got us to that point. So I don't know how much more research can be done in the 17, 18 hours, if not more, that we've already paid for. But we left knowing that we wanted it more user-friendly, and we know that we wanted it to generate income where possible to the extent that it possibly could be made. Is that simple?
Maybe I misunderstood part of it through the initial drafting of it, but I can tell you this, a large part of the time went into reviewing multi-page letters and comments that you previously had from your land use board and from your planner, and that certainly did go into a lot of time, as well as pulling the other things, as well as looking at the fact that certain things hadn't been addressed in the prior draft of the ordinance before I was here, and different things. That's why a lot of time did go into it. I saw those comments, the user-friendly and the other issues. As I indicated, I noted that the draft that she had and provided to you, there's one part that definitely needs to be changed, which is very, very simple. I think I addressed that, and perhaps, and I think she still wants to speak with a couple of the township officials, but it's not a problem. We'll provide a draft. I don't think I think you agree, it's not that complicated, a couple things that you want. You're going to end up going to the comments from the land use board and be back here unless you.
Is it possible, to get that ordinance to them by Monday, at least for them to I don't know if they can talk about it.
Talking about next month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the intent, just to send them anything.
Already
But
read through.
Well, they don't need to see that one because we already didn't agree with that one. So, all right. Well, I guess it's not going to happen. It is already Monday, and I don't know.
see, that was the thing. The thing was to try to get something to the planning board, just for them to look at it, glance at it, get their piece of the process moving along, because that's going to drag out a couple of months or so. The way everything seems to do. So it was just I think the intent was
Try to get it to you, and I'll have Steve send it to you individually if you want to send back the comments later today. You can probably be able to do that.
But we still need to kick it around in, next meeting then. Okay then, so we'll wait to see what you bring forward. And just to recap, you're gonna adjust the draft and provide us with some others as a benchmark, so to speak, then, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
The other thing that was brought up was a type of ordinance, and we talked about it as well at the somewhere along the line. I'm sorry, I lose track, this damn thing's been spinning for so long. We tried to address when the property is strictly a generation field and not, not to mainly offset or provide electricity for a location on the premises or even within the township itself, but strictly just generate electricity. And we were looking, and we've kicked that around, and we were discussing basically two separate ordinances. One residential friendly, commercial revenue, and then one just straight out, this is a power field, they're generating here, and go with it as a tariff. And with your associate, I specifically was referring to my knowledge in the telephony industry, where the phone company pays a tax on every single line that goes through, and there's a basis for a billings, like a user fee. To go to what we'll kick around in the work session is the user fee. But what was your on that?
I think I'll provide an attorney-client memorandum because there's a lot of dangers with regard to that based upon the conversations I've heard this year. Potentially setting up township to have some problems with that ordinance, then, you know, I'll address it.
The same kind of problems we would have if we tried to put a permit fee on the solar panels on the poles, is that?
No, that's a little different.
That's a little different, because they're power generators too, without a problem.
To be honest with you, I mean, I think that the problem is, there's been so many discussions among, I guess, before this council, in terms of specific locations. You're almost doing it for one particular purpose, and there's, I mean, you talk about a revenue generating field. I mean, this is the only one that I'm aware of.
Say again?
I mean, is there more than one location that you're aware of where this would occur?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the work session, what we had discussed was, if you took a section of property like arrow safety devices right now on Bowman Street, which backs up to the MUA and the abandoned railroad tracks. If that, you know, that building is starting to become beyond disrepair, and sooner or later it's going to get some code violations that the guy's either going to have to tear the building down or he's going to have to start spending some money. But if he made a conscious decision, a business decision, to raise that building, tear that building down, and build a solar field to generate power and, you know, produce an income for himself, does that, you know, he took a building that was assessed at, you know, $200,000, $300,000 as you're paying taxes. When you tear it down, essentially he was making no income on that building, or very little income on that building. He tears it down, and then he makes an investment of some solar generating facility that generates him income, and he improves, you know, the improvement on that property, and that generating field is worth $1 million. Are we, you know, we assessed him at $200,000 when it was just an empty building, but now are we assessing him at $1 million because that's what the improvement is worth? It's like tearing down, you know, a house on a lot in town that maybe assessed at 150, but then we build back a $300,000 house. We assess them on the new assessed value of the new house, and we, you know, you pay taxes accordingly. So there are places in town that are in disrepair that it may be, you know, a viable business decision for that person to tear the building down and build a solar field. So that, I think that's what we were discussing.
I agree, but if you're talking about for that, it's going to discourage getting rid of the dilapidated property.
Well, how
tax it.
You cover me.
I think that's part of the concern that I would have, but I think it's probably better for.
You cover Burlington City. Let's just keep it simple, you know. And that has a generator. How does the city? What does the city tax that?
The what?
Burlington City has a PSE&G generating plant. Isn't it still active?
It's not. Well, they're going to tear that down. What's the tax rate on it?
Yeah. How is that taxed? Is it taxed for what it produced, or is it taxed just as property? Just as regular property. So
I have to double check the assessment.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we kicked that around enough. So recap: you're going to provide an amended draft and some comparison benchmark ordinances. Right? All right. Let's move to.
Mayor, are we going to still explore that, or are we just pull that off the table?
That right there, I think we're going to end up picking that up somewhere along, the generation piece.
Yes.
He sounded like he wanted to definitely give us a little something, maybe in an exec session or something like that. From the sounds of it, you're saying that we could open ourselves up to
I think you
problems.
ought to talk about some of this stuff in the executive session.
Right. Yeah, that was what I kind of gathered from that. All right, energy aggregation. You folks that weren't here for the work session, we had people come in and present different options. One option was the municipality can contract with an energy provider, and they'll do a reverse auction, and it has nothing to do with the individual properties in town. It only has to do with the energy use that this township uses and at its properties. So let's start there. There was interest at the work session by the council to go forward with no commitment to see what it would look like if we were to bring in this firm to give us an idea of what the savings would be, which of course would then save on the tax levy. If we reduce expenses, then that's a no-brainer.
So does this council want to move forward with taking a look at that service? It was EMAX. You weren't here for it.
We kicked it around so that we can actually do that moving forward, even though we did speak at that time that we attended the
It was
meeting
set by
with
the county strategy
which
session.
our
Right?
timeline to give an answer to them.
Well, that's
is
the next piece,
approaching.
yeah, that's the next piece.
Okay.
So
I'm just-
we're gonna do two pieces here. One is the council, do we want to take a look at having EMAX, having Steve contact EMAX and get a,
Can I interrupt you?
go ahead.
With all due respect, I sent that paperwork off already.
Okay, so we're moving forward.
Yeah, I thought so that
Well,
meeting that we spoke.
We were gonna
There
have,
was no
we were
commitment
gonna
from
iron
us.
it, we were gonna iron it down.
Yeah, there was no commitment from us, and he has to have our bills, everything 10 days, all these DCA rules, so if we want to get the savings, just like the banking thing, we had to throw it on there. I would like to, if we can get it, and he can get everything done around the next meeting, have the auction, and see what we could do there.
Right now, we haven't, what we're looking for is that first auction he does to give us an idea.
Yeah.
Right? So, at the next meeting,
Well, that first auction, we actually do it and then we decide at that meeting.
Because the very next day, we have to sign a contract.
okay?
So,
That's what-
there's
that's what
this whole
everybody wants
10-day
to do.
period with PSC&G, so I had to get the stuff to him, we talked about it. I don't remember what we talked about it, but whatever, the next day I gathered the paperwork, and so I've been in contact with him a couple times since then.
It was the budget meeting.
Okay,
Towards the end of the
Wednesday.
budget
Right,
meeting.
he was at the end of the budget.
He sent me the resolutions and everything that we would need to do if we go with them, and,
So now, to recap then, so at our next regularly scheduled meeting, we're going to take a look at this and have it on the agenda to vote on it as a resolution going forward, or is it an ordinance?
No,
Is
it's
it
a resolution.
Chief, in the interim, is it possible to reach out to Joe over at the MUA? I think he had done something similar with Esham, and I didn't get an opportunity, but maybe you'll be able to get an opportunity. There was some insight that he had regarding this, and maybe you could just speak to him about that and see if there's something that you need to bring to our attention.
Absolutely.
Okay, we didn't, he was at our workshop.
Right.
And he listened to everybody, and then at the end, he said, if you ever need some help going forward with this, just let me know. And then I asked him about specifically that, and he said, when we get some time.
I'll reach out to him, see what he says, and like I said, this initially is
This is a no-brainer.
Right, we're under no obligation,
Exactly.
and if everything works out, it's a year, we have to do a year to year, but.
And being progressive, you caught us all off guard there, that's why we were confused for a minute. Actually, somebody followed through that quickly, we
That's unbelievable.
we lost it for a second there, we got,
It is a 12-month, it's just a 1-year
I was
commitment.
gonna ask, is it 1 year from the date of signature, or is it?
Is it
Yeah, it'll be
annual?
1 year,
Well, I thought he said we could pick a
I thought-
12, 18, 24.
Yeah, there is, 12, 18, or 24,
I thought he actually started at 6. It didn't start at 6 months? One of those guys are talking 6 months, 12 months.
Well, it may have been him, because we were only talking about municipal energy, we weren't talking about the entire
I
town.
mean, we can lock it at a good rate for 2 years,
I think
Well,
that's what he said, based on the time frame, if you do
Right.
6 months, you're gonna have a more expensive rate than if you do a 24 months.
Right.
Right,
So,
and that's what he said, it showed, 6,
Right.
it actually showed it who was willing to bid on what, as you were looking at it, so we could wind up 6, 18, 24, just based on percentages of savings. So, but just my only.
Yeah, I'll reach out, actually, him and I talked today on another issue, so I'll reach out to him
So
tomorrow.
the answer that they told you was that the commitment period, or I should say the contract, starts that day with that passing of that resolution.
Yeah, that's why we have to, if we do the auction tonight, tomorrow morning, we would have to sign all the paperwork. And then we won't, like I said, we'll still get the PSC&G bill, we won't see any difference that way paperwork-wise.
Yeah, that was pretty well fleshed out. Well, the other part of that meeting, for you folks that weren't there, was energy aggregation for the entire township. and Councilman Jones, Deputy Mayor DeFalco, and myself attended a Burlington County strategy session, and the county is actually interested in doing this on a countywide. Our work session was for us to look at it as a township. We can still do it as a township. We can, look at numbers both ways, but the county would like an idea from the municipalities who's thinking about buying in, so that they have an idea of how many households that they could be looking at for when they look at who they would use for aggregation. Because the prices, well, quite frankly, apparently it's a complex formula based on user use. And in some cases, smaller numbers can get bigger prices if the user profile is different than the larger numbers. So there's apparently a lot of different ways that they look at this. For example, the question was posed, if we do this thing with EMEX or anyone else for that matter, if we contract with them, taking the municipality piece out, does that hurt the aggregation, overall aggregation of the township or in a county program? And the answer was actually no, right? It doesn't. So we're able to move forward with the municipal piece independently of the overall piece without hurting the overall piece. And if it turns out that the aggregation rate is better, then you heard earlier, we can always get out of this contract when it's up and move in to the aggregation. I mean, no.
Actually, I think they're talking about two different things. When you talk about the residential meters versus commercial meters, so it could be different.
Well, the folks that came in said that we were able
to
tie in this. It's a real complex thing, obviously. But anyhow, so then the question that this council needs to answer right now is, do we want to send a letter of interest to the county that we as a township are interested in looking at with them an aggregation for the township, for the entire township? And this, folks, would mean that with no change to the company that delivers the service, which is PSE&G, you would see a change of who actually generates the electricity. So right now, you look on your bill and it's something like BCGS, and that would change, but the people you deal with being PSE&G won't change, and it's like an invisible change. You can opt out, anyone can opt out, and that is what we're addressing right now. So this council, what is the will of this council?
With that being said, if we sign this letter, all it's saying is that we are willing to look at it with the county. It's non-binding. We don't like the numbers. It's not good for our residents. We don't have to go through with it. That was clearly stressed. And the other thing was, the county's taking the front road on this. All the paperwork, their lawyers, it's all done by them. It's not going to cost us anything to sign a paper, to look at anything.
Right, but so, in all fairness, the folks that were here for the
yeah, I missed that meeting, but I just
the folks that the folks that were here for the energy workshop that we had, all of those folks were clear that if we use any of them, Jason, then there's no out of pocket for the township. Yeah. The same as if we use the county, there's no out of pocket. So there's no out of pocket on this, no matter what. And there's no binding contract, no matter what, until we get to that decision-making process. This is not about a binding contract. We could also look at aggregation going forward without binding, the same as we'll have EMEX come in here, and we're not bound by that first auction. So we are not at a point where we're going to be signing any letter of commitment. And this is just letter of interest.
And Mr. Mayor, just for public's benefit, on any of these circumstances, if any member of the public didn't wish to do that, they could opt out of the overall change, particularly if it's a resident who already got a sweetheart deal from a company that were on their own.
Well,
you're saving 20%, you're allowed to opt out.
George, according to the people that presented, people that are in their own, that have already switched, they're not on that poll.
Right.
They talked about how they actually do a poll, and those numbers are excluded. Those people in their contracts are already in their own contracts.
Apparently, if you can get out of that contract, you can, join. But yeah, it's like George was saying, and it's been stressed over and over and over again. It's an opt-out, everyone will get a postcard, you put it in the mail, there's an outreach piece to this, that every one of the contractors, the county, like Jason was saying, the county would do all kinds of outreach, website, workshops, town hall meetings, but it is an opt-out, which can be done at any time, and it is an invisible change. The best benefit of it is that you are not on your own. Right now, you read these nightmare stories where somebody, mostly from Pennsylvania, because we haven't really kicked this thing in too much yet, but where somebody signs something and now something else happened, the rates go up. That's one of the things, your variable rate or something like that. Well, if we do this either as a township or with the county, you don't have that individual potential for getting jacked by some fly-by-night operation. This would be obviously a company that has met the requirements of dealing with us. So having said that, and went on a little too long, what's the will of council? Should we do this as a motion? George, a motion for a letter of interest?
So county's ethical purpose.
Right, so do I have a motion to provide the county a letter of interest?
Make a motion for the county letter of interest based on the template they provided in the package, which we have in your
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Could I have a roll call on that motion, please?
Mr. Felton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. DePaolo?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. That's
That
done.
has to be in before July 1st.
Yeah.
Just make sure that clarification's accurate.
Okay, lastly, on old business, we have RVTV filming of meetings. This issue came up with the cost of the equipment, which has already been, done, so that's it, the equipment's already been purchased. This was covered, in session, and there were no objections when it was covered, but we need to discuss it as a council, and the manager needs guidance on it, and, Mr. Jones had asked for, discussion before, we would just move forward with it. So this is that discussion, and, I'll open up to the council if there are objections at this point. Do we want to, go forward with the meetings being on RVTV? The equipment has already been purchased. What is the issue now? Is there an issue that you want to discuss?
My issue was, as it was back then, was not the purchasing of the equipment, but the fact that this council agreed to look into the cost. The purchasing was done, it was under the threshold, so the manager went out and purchased the equipment. Then the council never decided if we were going to do this. We show up to a council meeting, camera present, no notification. That was my issue, was the fact that the council did not vote, get a voice to say that, hey, there's a camera for RVTV going to be in the council that night. Because,
Okay.
yes, we did agree to look into a cost, which none of us saw. Well, I'm not going to speak for everyone. I didn't see any numbers on what it was going to cost before it was purchased, and I was told it was under the threshold. That's fine.
Well, as I recall, once we got the numbers, I sent emails out to everybody what it was gonna cost.
And we've been having email issues.
Okay, we did. And then when I received the equipment after being asked by a councilman several times about it, and it arrived, I sent it out. Maybe I should have been a little bit clearer that it was gonna be on that night, but I figured after some discussion, I was questioned about it, that everybody was in agreement with it.
Okay, so, and this is, recording and putting these meetings on RVTV has been kicked around these chambers for years now, actually. So, having, heard your your issues with how we got where we're at. We are now at this point where we have the equipment, RV is, you know, ready to, Steve, RV is ready to put this on their, what, channel 19 or 357, whatever Comcast is. You know, at this point, what do we want to do? The equipment is purchased, you know, do we move forward, or do we?
We're not gonna put Lewis out of business, are we?
Well, apparently that, you know,
I'm kidding.
there's a law that says that, or apparently, you know, we can't ban videotaping. You know, is that correct, George? I've been told that you
You can
cannot
set
ban.
procedures.
We can set procedures, but the recording by RVTV does not supersede somebody with a camera doing it. So Lewis would stay in business if he chooses, but if it's on TV, he may decide it's not worth his time. So what else do we have?
Me, myself, I would object to
Alright, so Lou has an objection. So I guess if there isn't any further discussion on, maybe we should just vote on it.
Well, can we discuss the objections? I mean,
Well, Lou just said he has an objection. Do you want to discuss your objection?
no.
Okay, so he says, no, he just wants to, he put his objection out, and that's, yes. So, what do you have to say?
I don't object, so.
All right then,
I guess if that's.
I'll make a motion that we join, what would the wording be, that we provide RVTV with session video for them to put on their community website. Is there anything in particular wording wise there, George?
You say motion to approve the use of RVTV.
Okay, make a motion to.
I'll word it if it need a
All right,
resolution.
I would make a motion then to approve RVTV, and we need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call on motion to approve RVTV.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Mr. DeFalco?
No.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Okay, so then, that's the end of that, so I guess,
Chief, can we return that equipment?
No, not at this point, but I have another use for it, so.
I just suggest you just look good and keep quiet.
well, Louis, you're still in business.
Oh my goodness, really?
And then you
All
want
right,
to discuss
that
it.
takes,
Look good and keep quiet.
that takes
It
care
defeats
of,
the purpose of sitting up here, don't you think?
that takes care
Don't worry about
of old business. All right, new business, we have, Burlington County Parks grant to discuss, the use of the grant. Open it up to council for discussion. Obviously, we want to know, we want to put in for the grant. Yes. So, the use of that grant.
This one passed out.
Oh,
In executive?
yeah, it was kind of tossed around to different piles. There's another copy.
You got one, Jason?
The special funds.
All right.
start? Yeah, with the recreation, you gotta start, I guess.
Say if you wanna read them all.
Yeah.
Looked at by the 28th of this month, we'll apply for a round of funding from the County of Burlington. And some of the ideas our recreation group came up with was resurface the basketball courts at Milldam, new glass backboards for basketball courts, fence to surround the basketball courts with a gate and a lock, resurface of the skating rink, recreate the tennis courts, obviously the fence and the gate around the court. Softball field that's in Milldam, change that to like an all-purpose field to accommodate, football, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse. A fence around that field, a walking track around the all-purpose field, and bleachers for the basketball and all-purpose field.
One more add.
Okay.
Now that our kids are grown.
Additional banner poles on High Street.
Is this a recreation grant specifically, or
It's county parks grant.
county parks grant? So would that,
That may fall in depending on if you're advertising recreation events and things of that nature.
yeah, I just don't wanna put us in a position where we're asking for something outside their guidelines.
I'm sure everything that we have on the list, when the question the validity on the application for the grant. He said that, what did you say? That there would be questions, because what he was saying, he would make sure that they're valid before applying, pretty much. So, is there any reason to believe that any of these wouldn't be valid under this grant? Was there any look, did you look into that at all, what the guidelines were?
No, I mean, I have it, I received this tonight, but I mean, this is all what the grants have been used for in other communities, depending on the town and the bill.
When's the deadline, chief?
28th of June, we got the letter on May 28th, so.
And we have to pass this off to our engineer, and he has to,
Take a look at it. It's pretty simple, everything's already, I mean, in the sense if we're focusing on that area, they have everything already in the computer, it's just a matter of, overlaying or what they wanna put on, what we wanna put on.
I mean, I guess realistically, how quickly they can do a cost analysis to do an all-purpose field. And we're looking at $250,000 unless, we get 2 or 3 of them. I don't think you could build an all-purpose field for $250,000. So is a lot of this gonna be predicated on a cost analysis? And then if they come back.
But I think it has to be a priority.
Well, the priority would be a good all-purpose field, but I just don't know that we can do it with a $250,000 grant.
Right.
So, like I said, do we attack this, by sending this over and saying, can you give us a cost analysis on each one of these items?
Well, that's what we did in the previous one, that first one that we just finished up with the lights, they listed out the cost of them, or, the project involved.
Right. So that's what I'm kinda getting at, is, that's how we had to do it before. And then they came back to us and said, well, this is the only 2 things you can get, lights and a ramp.
We didn't get the ramp.
We didn't get the ramp,
And
because we needed
and
another.
we didn't get the walking path either.
Right. So, we gotta, I think, this devolves in their court to kind of give us some guidance on what we can realistically cover in those amounts, and do we make steps towards those things?
Well, I'll try to get prices in the next couple of days on this stuff, and get it out to you, and then we can talk, 1-on-1.
The other thing is, usage. I haven't been down there in a while, but, the basketball courts, I guess I do every once in a while see that they're kind of crowded, but, You know, is the usage there to predicate, you know, resurfacing or doing more
I
of?
would say so.
Okay, so then that would probably, you know, get a little star next to it because it's being used by the,
Mr. Belton,
by the youth.
there will be more use of it because there's a contingency of putting league down there and creating recreation money to come into the town. And I think that would also help the town with the restaurants and things in this town to bring money into the town. That's what, you know, some of our plans are. And charging different outside towns to come in and play.
Okay, so is 4 courts enough then?
Well,
We
it's-
have 4
it's-
courts now. I mean, this is the discussion we need to have.
Well,
If you plan on-
it would be set up in a league form where different nights, different teams would come and play. And then at the end, we would have a championship game. And, you know, it's really very simple.
Back to my next question, I mean, my first question. So if we're looking at certain parts of this, you know, do you look to expand that, or do you just say we're gonna refinish the 4 courts that we have there?
4 courts would be sufficient for what we are looking to
Do short term.
To do short term, not even short term, to run the program that we are looking to run. It is going to be in conjunction with other towns. So there will be, say for instance, West Hampton being, we haven't really reached out to them completely yet, but some games will be played at their facilities, games will be played at our facilities, just the way that we do when we travel for different football events, baseball events. You go to each town's facilities, and I mean, you go to our facilities, they're lacking improvement. And I know 1,000 people that leave this town to go to Hainsport, to go to East Hampton, to utilize their parks, and ours are left to be nothing done with. So this is why we are reaching out for grant money and trying to, these are our focus, this is what we're trying to accomplish, to get people to stay in this town, to have the kids participate in this town.
Are there lights on those courts?
No.
Okay. So, you know,
That's,
in our discussion, that's what we're having, a discussion. You know, let me remind everybody at this diocese that, you know, I'm a council member that was the first child in public school in this town in a long time, so therefore I am very, very appreciative of any rec that we do in town, and I am not at all, and make sure we understand that, I am not at all being combative when we have this discussion, but there has to be a sense of cohesion when we put a grant together, and in the past years we have not done that, and that's why we have not gotten that. So there has to be some sort of cohesion. You know, we can't say, well, we're going to resurface 4 courts because we're going to have this, you know, we have this intention of running these tournaments when the days get short, when it's a good time to play and the lights need to come on. I played in plenty of these leagues when I was younger, and Cinnaminson being one of them, had 12 courts and plenty of lights. And the Cinnaminson League was huge. So we're having a discussion about what makes sense to put on the grant, and that's what we need to make sure we
Can I
stay
just make a
focused.
suggestion to indicate that, I know that CME engineers, one of the approved engineering contracts, work closely with another municipality, has been extremely successful, including lights at basketball courts and other things. I think they can get a chance to help you look it over to make sure that this is done perfectly. You might want to, they've been very successful in that, in this particular grant, and they've gotten it every year.
And that's,
Basically, it's a stepping stone. You know, if we can start at one step and move our way up, by next year or a couple of years from here, we can develop it even better with lights, and we might have to delay it.
well,
Exactly, and that's what they look for. They have one year, one part of the phase of the project, the lights were incorporated as a small piece of the grant, one stand.
yeah, I think we had run into some issues, but we had some discussion about lights and then resurfacing and then trying to run the lights underneath them and then resurfacing. So those were, we needed to check and see where the utilities were, how to bring them in, so that when we resurfaced, we didn't go over top of our utility way. So there had to be some, you know, some prior planning. But I think, again, Chief, back to whether it's CME or, they have to give us, I think, a cost analysis of which one of these are realistic, of these, what they're gonna cost, and then we can, you know, we can say what's realistic. Resurfacing skating rink and recreate tennis courts. I think they're really gonna have to give us some guidance on whether or not the size of that is adequate, or if it has to be expanded. I think all of these, I mean, if this is our wish list, I think we have to start with them, since they have experience on what these things would typically cost, and how far we can go for our bang for a buck. I think we have to start with them. That's all I have.
Grant, we're not gonna get everything on this list done with the 250 grant. I understand what you're saying. We need to see which one. This was a list that was put together by the rec board to focus on what we're looking to do. So, I mean, and we're now bringing it to you guys, and yes, we need to get some, how much each one's gonna cost, approximate, but if we can get two off this with the resurface of the basketball and fence up, you know, and we can get that program up and running and knock some of the violence down that goes on down there and crime that happens in that area, then that's something that we can get done.
The next steps would be, let's reach out to CME, get a cost analysis of what these items on the wish list cost, have a discussion on what we'd like to include in the grant application, and then proceed before the deadline of the 28th of this month. Does that sound like that's what we should do?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
it, right there. We need the cost to move forward. So you guys
Can I
know-
ask one quick question, since this is the first time I saw this list? A 10-foot fence surrounding the basketball courts with a gate and lock. What's the reason for that? Not chasing the basketball?
Protect your court from vandalism.
Put money into this. Here in it. You go down there is crime that happens down in that area. And if we're going to put money into these parks, are we going to go down there and have to refix everything that gets broken every single night? We're looking to improve
I got
the
that.
look.
I mean, these
So-
courts are there now, right? These courts, I don't, well, I'm gonna say, we can go and talk to CME or whatever.
We gotta get cost to move forward.
Yeah, but I'm probably
No.
gonna be vehemently against putting a fence around a basketball court
Well, I
that's 10
think-
foot
I
high
think-
with a lock on it.
I don't know, I think fences around basketball courts are pretty standard, but, you know,
A lot of
I'm
towns,
not,
they got
I'm not, you
fences
know,
around basketball courts.
You've obviously been to a basketball court lately.
we
It's called a tennis
yeah,
court.
I know.
And if
I know,
it's
I
being
haven't.
used as
Does it
a
show?
basketball court, if it's being used as a basketball
Long
court, it's
time.
probably a tennis court as well,
Yeah.
so you don't chase a ball.
Yeah,
But
okay.
every park that I've been to, including ours, doesn't have a 10-foot fence around it. And I can send you I can give you the address of 100 of them. So you drive down Mount Laurel Road, Hazel Court Road, you'll see 100 of them.
So we're in consensus that we're looking for the information back from the CME. We kick it at the next, you know, we'll have it for the next meeting.
You'll have it before then. because
Yeah, because the next meeting is,
The 24th, and it's due on the 28th, so.
Okay,
I don't want to
so
play with
the next meeting's the 24th and it's due on the 28th, isn't the 24th before the 28th?
Yeah, but don't you need that to be informed prior to the meeting of what the costs are, and then instead of just getting it tonight?
Oh, no, I mean, but we'll discuss it at the meeting, we'll have the cost whenever you email them, right? You know, but this will be for the next meeting, so we'll hammer this out at the next meeting within time to make that deadline of the 28th.
does it cost too much to have CME here and maybe have a discussion with them about?
No, we'll probably have them here because they may have some other insight.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
And we did that, yeah, we had professionals here for the last.
George, this isn't one you have to have a hearing on, is it?
No, they got rid of that, all right? They got rid of that requirement. The very first grant we had to have a hearing. And then the second grant, I asked what was going on with the hearing, and they said no hearing. That's
So, you know, if you want to have, I don't think you want to have me sit at a meeting for like 3 hours in title. You might want to just do it and have a subcommittee do it, or have one person meeting.
Well, how about when they come in first and go home?
Communications. Have them
You
come
do that
in.
too if you want, I mean, that's.
Communications. And then we can carry.
We've already had a subcommittee come up with this. So,
But they, without speaking for the profession, so.
All right.
but I would
Okay.
check on that hearing. Just because we got an answer doesn't mean it was right.
No,
That's
he,
true.
I remember that now.
I went up and down
The first
about
one we
that.
had it, and then the second one, I guess they had, done away with that requirement.
Okay.
Because that second one we never got because
We
we
didn't
didn't
get
finish
it,
the first.
right, we didn't get the second one, but it just was a resolution on the agenda, and I said, wait a second, where's the hearing? And there was no hearing, there was no descriptive, no
Right.
nothing, you know, so, all right.
Rick, real quick, Steve, how much is left in the last grant?
33,000. We had talked, I'm waiting for a guy to give me a price on that resurfacing. And then I'll have to just write a report to the county just to get X amount left over. This is what we want to use it for in the park, and then I'll just do a change on there.
So, what was the amount that's left? 33,000.
Yeah, 33 and some change.
And there's no requirement, because we put this around before, wasn't there a requirement that goes to the walkway when the last time we talked about it, we go?
They told me that, you know, you could have the other projects, but you could decide to do something else, and as long as we put it in, submit it in writing to them, and it's, you know, recreation and using the grant, they'll just do a change order to their.
Well, the reason being is the last time we talked about it, we specifically talked about that, the trail that runs along from Pine Street back to, you know, back towards the basketball courts, has no lighting.
Well, I've had some discussions with the fire department, and they're actually going to put lighting in their property there for us and back towards the basketball.
To light that up a
courts.
little bit, because
Yes.
it's dark, you know, it's quite dark. So, a little bit of a safety element there, you know.
We talked about that, some surveillance they're doing for us, and that was one of the issues that came up, was they were gonna do lighting towards the park back there, and I asked to put some on that side towards the trail.
All right.
I do know they met with PSCNG about it.
Okay, so grant stuff to be continued at the next meeting. All right, new business. Other new business.
not tonight for me.
Jason?
Just one thing I have was the manager's position. No offense, Steve, you're doing a great job, but you're also doing 2 jobs. I'd like to see us get resumes out, get resumes in, and appoint a township manager by September 1st. George, when would we have to put a deadline on the resumes if we wanted to?
Well, I mean, that, obviously, eventually you're gonna want to frame, I think you would appoint a subcommittee of a couple people, and any other non-council members you want to conduct the interviews. So you're gonna need to have, you know, I would assume probably around July 1st would be sufficient if you got the ad out now to get in resumes, and then you want to conduct interviews so you can give the person, you decide on someone, you decide you want to go that direction, enough time to give notice where they are, give them time to swear in for September. So I think we want to start pretty quickly if that's the council's goal. You probably want to get the resumes in by July 1st, you know, schedules go, and then to be able to schedule some interviews in the next couple of weeks.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, what's the magic number for September 1st?
I'd like to see it done by the end of the year. I mean, we've been working without a real manager for a while now, and It's just figured before you get into the holidays, so you got November and December, you got holidays rolling around there. December 1st, January, or September 1st, you get them in, they get aware with it. And we, January 1st, we're starting fresh, basically with a brand new manager. Gives them 2 months to get acquaintance with everything. And by January 1st, you got a manager that's been here for 2 months already, and Steve can fill them in. So we're starting the year off fresh. That's just, if we could get it out sooner and get it, but I was thinking if, we're already almost close to July. So you want to be able to have a couple months of interview process depending on how many people you have come in to drop off resumes, and you want to give adequate time. So I figure that gives us 2 months to make a decision and not being rushed into a decision, but it also gets us a new manager before the end of the year.
Well, I've actually been quite satisfied with Steve covering both of these jobs. And I have, if anything, I have more interest in making him permanent manager if he was interested in it. Also, I'd like to make sure that, Jason, that you get a copy, if you don't have one, of this management study that we paid, I don't know, $5,000 for. And take a look at what it says in here as far as the study that they did, and as far as the fact that this study is stating that we don't have enough of a workload for a full-time manager, and Mount Holly Township warrants a manager position that can serve a minimum of 20 to 25 hours per week under the recommendations. So I'd like you to definitely have you.
I have not been given that.
Well,
so,
Steve, if you could make a copy of that.
I mean,
maybe Mr. Brown hasn't seen it either. But the fact of the matter is that we had this situation analyzed for us as a township, and this is the recommendations for it. The other recommendation was that one of the others was to add a work session, which we did. It's due to budgetary constraints is the main reason. Relatively small, community. There's multiple issues addressed. So I'd like you to take a look at that. But that's my position on it. I feel Steve's done an outstanding job, and I would support making him a permanent manager. I think it's doable. I think the two jobs match, that they make pretty good, and due to budgetary restraints, we're looking at an $85 tax increase for the average homeowner on the budget that was discussed last week, and that was without budgeting for $120,000 to $140,000 manager, which is the amounts that have been discussed in the past for a decent manager. So, I'm not quite sure how much taxes this council is looking to raise. I'm looking to raise none. And this is basically covered in that report, that we really can't, be looking at a full-time manager, not as a fiscally responsible move. Again, it's in the report. I'd ask you to take a look at the report. Other discussion?
Other discussion on the manager thing?
Yeah, the manager thing. Mr. Brown, you started to speak?
No, I have nothing on that.
Okay, nothing on the manager. Rich?
I make one comment on the manager discussion. I don't fully believe that the report which you're referring to is 100% accurate as far as certain tasks and jobs in this township. When I initially received and reviewed it last year, back when we had the temporary manager and then Denise Rose, the other temporary manager, that report reminds me very much such as a template response that they give every township that asks for that. With a couple little numbers here and there in there, and a couple of things that were added based on conversations that were having. I personally speaking, I don't know how accurate that actually is, especially with some of the issues that came up with both of those matters here. Not to discuss anything out of context at this meeting, but just take that into consideration.
And I guess everyone, you know, when they read the document, they have their own personal opinion on it. So, you know, it should be given out so that each council member can make their own personal opinion on it. You know, we did pay for it, and I don't remember a whole lot of objections to either A, doing the study, or B, receiving the study, or C, paying for the study. This is actually probably the first objection to it on record. But again, it's pretty self-explanatory if anyone wants to.
This was done with previous council.
Right.
So.
But Rich
You
and I
haven't had
were
a-
on that previous
You haven't had a
council.
chance to get
Right.
our